Hey, what's up all you Rift multi-boxers? I had this video requested, and here it is. This is going to cover all of my keybinds and macros for every character, how I synced them up, like what goes with what when I hit one on the tank screen, what it's hitting on all the screens. And it's going to be broke down with the spreadsheet and this text file, and you can find both these in the description. And I'm actually going to get the video uploading before I finalize these two things, and I'm going to try to attach the link in the file and on the spreadsheet. That way, if they get split up in any way, hopefully the link will still be there. Then you can find your way back to this video for instructions on how to use it. So, obviously, this stuff only works for specific classes and specs. And I want to mention that I'm level 55 as well. Now, from my understanding, how the macro system works is even if you're level 1 and you only have one of these spells, it's in, say, that giant line right there, it will just ignore that you do not have any of the other spells, and it will just use the spell that you have. So if you're low level and you're trying to copy this guide for like step by step, it should work just fine, assuming that you pick the same specs that I picked in the classes, of course. So let's start with the classes that I did pick. So for my tank, I'm a warrior, and I went with the Void Knight tree. This is basically like a Death Knight if you play Warcraft, and a Reaver for like second tree, and the Reaver has extra AoEs. So I found this to work the best for the last. I've been using it for probably 5 levels or something now, and it has a AoE like death grip. Like when you taunt with it, it'll snatch all the mobs and pull them to you, like AoE pull. And you know, if you're positioned properly, like all of them will be like pixel perfect models stacked directly in front of all of your slaves, so they can just, you know, blow it up. There's no like weird positioning issues that you'd run into just running into a pile of mobs, getting a mob behind the center of the hitboxes of the slave accounts. So that's this tree. I know I could have filled out like a talent tree or something. I gave links to that, but I really don't feel like doing that, so just pause the video if you're trying to copy down my spec. Basically, I've got like everything in Void Knight except for Spellbreaker, Residual Absorption, Staggering Rage, the Knockback. I'm working on filling those two out. For the Reaver tree, I kind of rushed to get this spell, Dire Corruption AoE spell, just to have an extra AoE, and then I think I put one more point in that, which is like a shield wall cooldown. It's a defensive cooldown. So that was the tank. Let's do the healer next. So the healer's a cleric, and I went with the warden tree because the warden gets I think it's called shared excess. There it is. Distributes 25% of overhealing received up to 5 other party or raid members, and then you get a spell that works the same way. Overhealing is spread up to 2 other party or raid members. So you basically just keep your tank topped off, spam healing them, and you're getting splash heals, and you really don't have to be precise with AoE healing if your party's dipping down. So for this tree, you can kind of see what I got everything in Warden except for your damaging spells, blah blah, do something, increase the damage done, increase damage done. So I got like everything except increased damage done stuff. And then for Purifier, I basically just stuck enough points in just to get this buff, increase Wisdom by 60. And then in Sentinel, I stuck enough points in to get that passive talent just to bump up your healing by a flat 6%. And I think this one gets a buff to increase endurance. I think another class could do that. So that is the healer. Now let's do the mage. I have two mages, and both of them are pyromancer. And they're both, the second tree is warlock. So for pyromancer, basically I just filled the tree up and did not get the flicker, which is like blink from WoW, because I kind of mess up follow. And firestorm, that is I think it's like a ground target AoE, which doesn't work right with the multiboxing broadcast. And backdraft, I was actually reading it. It stuns, but I'm thinking it's a ground target also, or did something I didn't like, so I didn't get that one. And then the warlock tree. Looks like I was coming up here to get your dots, ignore resistance, and also you get the endurance buff. So there's actually two classes that can provide the endurance buff. So I have two of those mages, that's how they're both set up. And then this is the rogue, or hunter, as I would rather refer to it as. And if you've seen my the full-blown 2-hour guide, I was actually barred on this tune originally, and it's just a pain in the ass, so I'm actually a marksman now. And it looks like I did not get barbed shot. Combat, I'm probably working on getting that one. Just don't have enough points yet. Didn't get that one. Get away. The roots, I didn't get the roots. Those are like PvP stuff. Those are stuff you'd probably get if you were playing this like as PvP or you're playing a solo. And then assassin is a second class, and I got the critical hits, debuff the target, increasing the damage you do to them by 5%. And then for Bard, I stuck a couple points in Bard just to get this raid buff. I tried to basically get as many raid buffs as possible with my team. And that's the aura, increase armor by 1400 and all resist. Okay, so that is that's the cover of all the talents. Now for the spreadsheet, the way this works is this red column is my keybind. And before I talk anything about them, you gotta remember this is what I'm using instead of a keyboard. So you're looking at some of these binds and you're like 9 and 8 and 0 and hyphen and equal sign. That's, you know, like unconventional for a keyboard user to hit those on the regular, unless you you just got crazy ass long fingers. So that's actually my binds for my Rift profile. So you can see hyphen is just like one key down from my ring finger. Everything's a lot closer together. So consider that whenever I'm running through here and you're thinking, you know, these keys are like crazy. So one's a single target finisher. And the way this is set up is in the class columns is either the name of the macro or the spell. And it's a little bit of both. It's mixed with both. And then down here at the bottom, the asterisk just means that it's the same for all of them. There's no difference in any of them. So one's my single target finisher. That's to like dump combo points. Two's the same deal with AoE. Three's like my run and gun button. If I'm running around rounding up mobs, I'm just basically mashing 3. That has all my AoEs in it for the tank. 4 and 5 are something a little special. It's just one spell for the tank, Unstable Reaction, and that's an AoE for the tank, but it's a channel spell, and you can interrupt it by hitting another key. So if you try to macro that to something and you're mashing the keys, then it's gonna break the channel, and it does quite a bit of damage, and it has like a 20-second cooldown or something. So for 4, if I mash 4, it's gonna AoE on the DPS classes, but it's not going to interrupt the channel on the tank. So it's like getting the most efficient AoE out of it. And then for 5, it's kind of the same deal, except it's DPS cooldowns. The DPS actually have channel spells for cooldown. So I have that set up for the channels, and if you just have one spell on that key and you mash it, it does not break the channel. So that kind of needed to be done with this, you know, any key. It doesn't have to be 5, but it needs to be done to like maximize DPS. And then for 6 was like a taunt, and this key is shared with the dispel for the healer. And then 7 is a single target combo point builder. So on a boss, I'm spamming 7, basically like 7 and then 1 when I dump combo points. That's for like, you know, single target. And then 8 is the like oh shit button. It does knockbacks, stuns, disarm. Tank pops defensive cooldowns like shield walls and shit. Self heals. The healer does like big heals. 9, 0, equal sign are regular just buffs, just like a single buff. And then F2 is a multi-buff macro. And then F1 is my big heal that I can just spam over and over. F3 is a AoE heal that's like a hot, and it's like an offensive dispel for the tank. So spell sunder. And then the rest, pretty self-explanatory. So this is the file that's going to come with it, and you'll be directed to a link that bring you here, and it should be right underneath my public Rift script that I made for you guys. So you'll grab this, and you need both these to figure this out. So some of the macros that I made that are like the same on everything are there's the follow macro. And one thing about this list is I didn't edit my tune's name out of it, so you're gonna see this a lot. Tar easy tank, and that's target me on my tank on my main screen. So you'll need to change that to your tune's name. And then follow focus, and then the interact key, so that's like you target something like the quest giver or guy you want to talk to port around the maps, like the flight path guy, teleport guy. Or you can even highlight it like a dead body and hit that so your other characters loot. I'm pretty sure you can do that, but I'd recommend just making the loot free for all and looting it on the front screen. And then import UI. So I have two of these, one for the small screens and one for the big screen. And the way you do this is you set your UI up the way you want it, and then you type export UI and then name. So it's actually, I had the quotations in the wrong spot. So export UI and then name it something, and you need to name it two different names so it creates two different profiles, and then you can map that key. So if you goof up your UI or something, you can just hit a key and refresh it back to, default profile how you want it. And then these, I kind of put these like differently. This one is set up to where it invites all of your tunes, so it would basically look like that. And then for the alts, I have it set up to where they all have a macro that says party leave, and that drops group, so they can drop group if you get in like a raid or something, or you convert to the raid and you want to leave the raid, or you set your group to public group and you went to a rift and other people joined your group, which would most likely in turn turn it into a raid. And then you can, drop group, simple like that, and then go back to your main, hit, this macro and re-invite them all, simple. And then trade macro slash, or not slash, I'm sorry, just tar tune name, and then trade, second line, it'll open trade with them. And then for the actual spell macros, I've put these in order the best I can, and I don't have any duplicates in here. So if you see it like skipping over numbers from like, whatever, F1, it's because F1 on here is all, and that's the same as 3. So 3 is all, so this right here is what's on F1. You just stick that macro on F1. So I'm pretty sure I got all of them. This one here is for the healer. This is for the shared excess. This by default just cast it on yourself if you don't have a target. So I just made a macro for it to make sure I always target the tank to cast that. Then the mage, you notice probably the mage's AoE looks very similar to the mage's single target, which is true because a lot of the mage's AoE is like ground target abilities, which don't work right. And it's single target DPS without using those is pretty much what you got. Like there's some like cleave abilities, so that's the best AoE you're gonna get from the mage doing it like that. And then of course there's the channel ability. Rogue, 1, that's like your combo point dump. AoE, run and gun, instacast, spam and stuff. Same thing with the channel, tank assist, knockbacks. So I'll show you just a couple of these things real quick. That's pretty much the end of the video if you just want to end it there, or you can watch me demonstrate a couple things. So let me make sure my profile is loaded for my gamepad. Alright, so I got all my tunes grouped up. I'll just run down here to the target dummies. And for the invite, this is my invite macro I was talking about. I just click it, and then invite pops up on all the screens, and I just click inside of one of these boxes, hold my modifier key down, and accept on all of them. And then if I wanted to drop group, I have that at the bottom right corner. If you can't see, I know it's like super small resolution, but this macro is the same on all of them. So if I wanted to drop group on all of them, just click that a couple times. And the trade, have my bags set up so you can see the bags on this screen are goofed up, so that's what the F8 key, I got to reset my UI, so I'll just hit F8 and reset my UI real quick. So that makes my bags all centered up. So actually I took my bags and I scooted them to the left a little bit, that way they weren't covering this bar over here, so I could have my bags open and then trade myself and give myself stuff if I need to. And what else we got? The essence thing for the planar attunement. If you're new to the game, you eventually get this. I think you get it at 50 or 51. And this is almost like a talent tree within itself, and it's just a bunch of small stuff in there specific to certain types of riffs. So like for the tank I picked death because I read that was the best, and you get that imbue. I'm just going to call it an imbue. I don't really know the proper name for it, but it says gives damaging ability attacks a 20% chance to return 10% of the damage done in healing for 2 hours. So it's a little bit of self-healing. So that's why it's best for the tank. So the stuff like that, there's one for each one of these classes. I have that on the F9 key, and this isn't as fluid and seamless as a lot of my other stuff, but I'll just go to each screen, just open up my character panel, and then if I hit F9, it makes the hand, like the glowing hand, like it's ready to apply it on each one. So I can apply it on that one, and hit escape, apply it on that one, hit escape, apply it on that one, hit escape. Basically do them all in probably 10 seconds or less. Not a big deal. I could probably bind C to open the character panel for me. Did it a little bit more fluidly, but yeah, it's whatever. You gotta remember, I've got one level on this game in 6 months, so for the buffs, I got them as 90 hyphen equal sign and then spam F2. So do 90 equal sign, which actually brings out some pets on on 3 of them because they actually don't have enough buffs. So it was like just a dead fill button just to fill in with something random. And then F2, and the way my F2 works is I'm looking for this buff right here, Crest of the Abyss. I have that at the end of my macro, so I'm going to spam this button until I see Crest of Abyss either pop up or refresh to 60 minutes. Just 3 global cooldowns, so there it is, it popped up in 60 minutes. So I know now that all of my stuff is refreshed, and then I see my Bard aura. So I know that the aura is good, because you can actually turn that aura off like that on accident if you're mashing buttons too quick. So that is the breakdown of everything. Should be enough to get you going. DPS, but the target dummies are like way over my level. On average, if you're wondering like what my DPS is, now you gotta remember, like, just for level 55 and my gear sucks. I think I'm in like a lot of level 50 gear. Greens. Literally the game becomes really, or I'm not gonna say the game, this game's dungeons become really unfriendly to multi-boxers in the expansion from 50 to 60. I couldn't solo any of them. Like, I could probably go back and maybe solo the 51 now, but they basically are set up to where you have to do lots of simultaneous mechanics and get the interrupts, and like I got my interrupts weaved into the macro, so it just kind of randomly hits them, and you know, you gotta like one dude gets a debuff and he's got to run off and do something, and it's just too much shit to do. Like, I mean, you could do it as a challenge and probably get it done and actually do it, but I mean, you're doing dungeons like this because you want to level usually. So I just said fuck it and been like questing and closing rifts, and it's kind of one of the reasons why I haven't really played the game much in 6 months. But yeah, 55. All of them are 55. I think the most I can do, like when I burst with the cooldown. That's the cooldown spell. With the cooldown, I think the mages burst to like around 5k, and they'll hold like 5k for a while, and they might flatten out to about 3k on a single target. And that's probably about what the rogue does as well, probably about 3k on mobs that are the same level. Well, that's gonna wrap it up. I hope someone found it useful. Oh, and one more note is you still can't copy and paste macros from a text file. So you can see here, I got that in copy and paste. You cannot paste it, so as nice as all this is, you're still going to be typing it out. And that's not my fault, that's Treon's fault. So, but at least you know what you need to type out. You don't have to go through and try to figure out the math of all the shit. And like, oh, I want to link these two spells together, and you know, stuff like that. So, it should give you a little jump start on that aspect. Alright, well, that's the end of the video. If you liked it, make sure you hit that like button. You might want to subscribe too. Throw some stuff like this out every once in a while, specifically for Rift. And see you next time.